Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Off the Bench podcast. Tonight, we are going to be looking at centre three quarters and a bit of news that's floating around the Supercoach world. And we'll also have a quick chat about how our team is going. 7 nights to go, or actually 6 sleeps if you want to count it that way. And then footy is back. Fucking yeehaw. Bring it on. We want to see some footy. Tonight, we've got with us Timmo. Give us a wave, Tim.
Howdy, boys.
Hey, how's your week been?
Oh, mate, fantastic. Kids are all back at school. The wife's back at school. 10,000 kids are at my school, running riot as per usual. Yeah, life is fantastic. Where else would I want to be but being at school and being abused by students? Gotta love it.
How many times you changed your team this week?
Mate, I'd probably need to be in the shower. It'll be at least 21 times.
Oh, my. All right. Also with us tonight, we've got Addo from Adrianosaurus Rex. He's got a podcast. He's also got the Dual Position podcast. And in fact, I don't think you'll mind me saying he's probably the slut of the Supercoach world at the moment. Addo, how you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm off the bench. I'm into the team tonight. I'm doing the 2 big ones. So I do my normal podcast there with the Supercoach Guns, and I'm doing great stuff with the Whisper. It's going well. Although normally I don't feel so burnt out at the start. I sort of feel pumped for the season, Supercoach wise. I'm on so many things. It's made me change my team so much and second guess myself. I've had a chat with the Supercoach Guns, and then later that day I'm talking to the Whisperer, and they both say one of them's for a player and the other one's totally against it. So it confuses me a little bit, and I'm feeling a tiny bit burnt out for Supercoach, but I'm pumped for NRL.
Bloody oath. All right, as well. My name's Braddo, for those that don't know. And as well with us, we've got Ross Mann. His camera's gone a bit shy on him tonight. But how you going there, Ross?
Yeah, I'm good. But, no one needs to see this head anyway, to be honest with you, really.
Oh, yeah, no.
Great face for radio, Roscoe. Great face for radio.
I'm sure it's a good improvement to what you'd normally see.
All right, before we get into it, don't forget, folks, we've got the group code. What's the group code there, Roscoe?
So it's 170834.
You want to run that again?
So 170834.
Beautiful work. Get in there and join, folks. It's all good fun, and the group is climbing every single day. So get into there. And as well, we've also got a $10 charity group that we're trying to raise. You pay your $10, you join into that. There's a little cash prize at the end of it, but it raises money for a good cause. What's happening there, Roscoe?
So one of our Supercoach members, Matty Wilson, he tragically lost his wife a couple of weeks ago, only age 30. So leaving behind Matty and his 2-year-old daughter. So we're just running a knockout comp to help out him and the family with just some much needed funds to help them out with whatever they need. So at the moment we've got about 44 runners, but we've had a lot of people donate extra on top, which is fantastic. I think we're up to about $710 last time I checked, which is really, really good. We've also got a couple of clubs potentially on board to donate some jerseys as well, which we'll look at auctioning off at some stage during the season as well. So once we've got all those details, we'll post them up on the page, and we'll organise like a silent auction type thing for them. And also too, with the overall off the bench code too, there will be prize money for that as well. So that's still to be confirmed, and should be hopefully finalised by tomorrow.
Mate, that's bloody terrific. And get on board with the $10 knockout people, the $10 group. Sorry. Great cause, and all our thoughts are there with the family. And let's push this well over $1,000. That's our first benchmark, and let's keep it going from there. All right, we're here tonight to talk about Supercoach now. So, and our main thing to talk about is going to be our centres and wingers. So we might push off and start with some of the guns that are floating around. Roscoe, what are some of the guns you've got your eye on?
Yeah, well, Valentine Jones is one that was probably nearly my first pick at the start of the season. He's 724,600. He averaged about 69 points last season. He's currently 27.5% owned. Scored well against all three opponents last season to start the season. They've also got 3 of the first 4 games at home as well. So I wouldn't say he's a must-have, but I think if you're looking for a gun in the centre wing, given the draw that they've got, I think he's probably the best option. What do you guys think?
Addo?
Yeah. Look, I'm.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I'll say he's been in my team probably longer than anyone else has been in my team.
Yeah.
Last year really gave me the shits watching it, and I was on my podcast cracking off about all the extras he was getting for Supercoach. But to be quite frank, Val took to the center wing, to the centers, and to elite level. Like he play rep footy in the centers now. That's how good he is. He's a sharpshooter. The cows were fantastic, and if you want to ask yourself the question of should I own Val, just go and have a look at their opening draw. I mean, they've been kissed on the dick, something fierce, haven't they? So if you're going to treat yourself, I reckon he's the best you can probably do in there on draw and on capabilities. You know, he can get tons as well. I've got him in and I've had him for the longest time in my team, probably compared to any other player.
Jimmo?
Yeah, mate, I absolutely agree. I think it was the first centre wing that I put in, and he's pretty much my staple. He's been there since. I think everything else, every other player in my 7 centre wing spots has moved around, bar him. So look, he's a bit of a lock and load. Like Addo said, the draw for the cows is fantastic, and they don't leave Queensland for the first 9 weeks. So even when they go to Magic Round and play an away game, then they're still at Suncorp Stadium. So look, they've like you said, they've been kissed on the dick with the draw, and that's pretty much exactly how it's going to look.
Tough one against the Raiders in round 1, though. I tell you what, no, the Raiders.
Oh, stop it! If the cows aren't top of the table, if the cows aren't top of the table at round 10, they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in my team since day dot. That I won't add to it. Who else you got, Ross?
Ruben Garrick's the next one. So 742, 600, averaged just under 71 points last season. He's currently 7.6% owned. He's got the Dogs to start, and then I believe they've got a bye, and then they've got Eagles and South. So it's a bit of a mixed bag draw. But as we saw in the trial, he was fantastic. He scored a triple in the trial against a little bit of an understrength Roosters team, but not to take that away from him. But I thought he would look really, really good. But I obviously Holmes, you would probably go for 20k cheaper, Nelly, just given the draw that they've got in particular. But obviously, if you're looking for that pod move, or you're going to run 2 guns in the centre wing, I don't think it's the worst option.
Yeah,
He's a certified gun now, isn't he, Carrick? Whether Turbo's in there or not, he's learned how to play fullback if he's got to go there. We always say, you know, he's too high price when you look at the draw for them, and there's others that you probably prefer. But if you're a real pod hunter and you don't want to go Val, or I wouldn't be. Garrick would be probably the guy I'd go.
Timmy?
Look, I agree. I think the biggest thing with Garrick is, especially when he's out of fullback, if Tommy plays, Manly score more points. Like all the stats say, Manly scores more points with Tommy in the team. Obviously, more points means more shots at goal, and Garrick obviously gets it being the team's kicker. So he's got plenty of upside. I'm not convinced he's the 150 plus point centre wing like some of the others are. Obviously, he can score well, but it's not as regularly as what some of the other guys do. But look, if Manly's scoring points, then Garrick's certainly scoring them as well.
Yep. No, agree with all of that. Who's next, Ross?
All right. Well, I guess we'll just talk about Johnny Manu now. We know he's in doubt for the first game, so there's a chance he may not play. But he is 801k, though. He's quite expensive. They missed round 1, then they've got a bye in round 4 as well. He did average 76 points last season. It's tough to go there, I guess, but the draw to start is Dolphins, Warriors, and South. So he has got a good draw to start by the South game. But if he doesn't play the first game and then they've got the bye, I think he's probably a pass. Would you guys agree on that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, nothing much. Yeah, just say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to see him play, and hearing things like he's in doubt for round one does scare me off a little bit. And wow, he's so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, anyone that's obviously Team List Tuesday shows everything, but anyone that's in doubt, I don't think you can really start with anyone with an injury cloud, because especially the way things. I mean, obviously you've got lockout till each game kicks off, so it is rolling through. So you can still make your changes after the first game kicks off if anything changes itself within your squad. But look, I think to be safe. Especially this time of the season when it's nice and warm and everything else, I think that you might find there's a little bit of team movement late, and at which point anyone that's in doubt or is still under a slight injury cloud, I'd be staying away from myself.
We know the face problems he's had. He's out with a facial fracture. Obviously Latrell helped him out with that. I think it is the same thing. And if he cops a higher shot, you could get a part game out of him because he cops one in the head, and now they're doing the old 11-day mandatory time off. So I think that's a bit of a risk, isn't it, with him?
Yeah. And that's right, Addo. That'd be my biggest concern too. If he gets a decent head knock, there's every chance he's not going to miss a week. He might miss 2 or 3 from the ones that he's had over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got no doubt he'll be in my side at some stage throughout the season, though. Absolutely.
Hopefully about 200k cheaper.
Yeah.
Next one's Brian Totwell, so 624, 300. He's currently 18.9% owned. Well, that was last time I checked. I like Totwell. I think he averaged about 59 points last season. We know what he can do, and obviously with Targo out now, is it Targo? Isn't it?
Taylor May.
Sorry, May, that's out. Potentially he moves to that left side, which I think he can definitely score better on that left side. So yeah, I don't mind him, but I won't be starting him. But I know Addo, I know you're pretty keen on him, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got him. I sacrificed Harry Grant as soon as I saw the injury to May. My natural assumption was that he's going to go back to the left. We're hearing little whispers that it might not be Taruva. It might still be Taruva. And in that case, Taruva has been playing on the left, and Brian, he's probably played more on the right in his career now, I reckon. But he definitely looks like he's more at home on the left. But the thing I reckon about To'o is that Taylor May he's like a little mini To'o, isn't he? For taking runs out of their own area. Whoever they go with out of Taruva or Jenkins or, one of these other guys, they're a lightweight. So I reckon Brian's going to pick up some runs. He'll run back from kicks, and he'll take first run, I reckon, from a lot of, yardage out of their own area type stuff. And that's Brian's bread and butter, isn't it? So I think the only way is up for him. It depends what kind of build you've got, and I don't think most people are going to go more than one gun. If I had to choose between Brian and Val, I'd pick Val. But I'm going a real strange build in my team, and I can have 2 of them. So I have Brian and Val.
Yeah, I'll back you up on that one, Addo. I don't know if it's that strange because I've got To'o and Val as well. The only thing that might happen is To'o might go for another base beast in Marzu. So I'm a bit torn there, but I certainly got Val and To'o at the moment, but I like a base beast somewhere in the back in the centre 3/4. I think you need one at least. Yeah.
I just love that he just goes in and he's not one of those lazy wingers who just stays out in the wing and waits for the ball. He gets in the dummy half, he makes runs, he tackles busts for fun, and he's so good to own. He's scary not to own. That's the thing. Because we know he's got that upside as well. When he's on his game, he can turn up easily.
Yeah, when he came towards the end of last year, that worried me because he started to look fitter. And we know how hampered he was with injury last year. So I think everyone's forgotten how much of a gun he is. And it doesn't necessarily come from loads of tries. He's a base stat beast. So yeah. I really think the only way is up for Brian this year.
Yeah. The last one I'll touch on is Dalton Cobo. So 586, 900, Mr. Rocks and Diamonds, I like to call him because he is. He averaged 56 points in 2022, currently 9.2% owned. He does have a pretty tough door to start by the Dragons game. He's got Panthers, Cowboys, and Dragons to start. I couldn't go there, but I could potentially see myself adding him later on when he gets a bit of a softer draw and opens up a bit more, because I'm pretty sure that during the season they've got a bucket load of games at home in a row, so he could be one to look at later on.
I think when the games are at home though, Ross, I think you'll find some are at Suncorp and some are at the Gabba. Later on in the season, joys of the Women's World Cup being on, Suncorp Stadium is actually being used for the Women's World Cup for the soccer, and the Broncos games are being moved to the Gabba. So it was a bit of a deal sweetener in the off season. We ended up picking up a free tickets to the Heat. There's a bit of a trade-off and keep all the Broncos members happy. But yeah, that's there is a few games there. I think we get 3 home games that are played at the Gabba instead of Suncorp. So it's not going to be quite the same fortress that it normally is.
Yeah. What do you think of him, Addo?
Look, he's. I feel like him in the same way I feel about AJ. Is that when he gets? It seems like whenever he scores tries, it's 3. You know, he gets them in bags of tries. So I feel like when you own him, you have these really happy days and you have these really average days as well. You know, I don't mind Oates as well. I thought he had a really big year last year. I love Herbie Farnworth as a player. Yeah. I think Staggs is saying that he was injured all last year and he's feeling fit this year. I reckon they can get the ball out to Cobbo. So I'm not courageous enough to start with him, but I think that what people saw in the Indigenous game versus the Māori All-Stars was enough for them to say, I'll take a punt on Cobbo. I think he's going to score tries.
Yeah. What do you think, Brad? You got anything else to add to that?
No, I wouldn't go near Selwyn Cobbo, but, you know, he's a bit like Xavier down in Melbourne to me. You know, it's rocks or diamonds. And particularly at the start of the year, I want a bit more consistency. And that's where I'm trying to go. All right. Well, that looks like the end of some guns there from Rosco. Thanks, Rosco. Now, Addo, you got a few mids there you want to mention?
Yeah, I can go some mids. Depends what price point you're looking at for mids. I'll sort them and I'll go pick a price that is actually midi so that we're not going too expensive. But the first one that I would mention, who I do like is, where are we? I'm not used to going on your show, so I'm not ready to go.
Yeah, right.
Where is it?
That's why I sit here and take notes as we go, Addo. It's much easier.
All right. Well, here's my first one. It is Isaac Thompson, 336,700. A lot of people are making decisions in that 300K mark. I'd have him at the top of that pile. It is one of those ones that people are like, well, where's Tane Milne? He's suspended for the first game. Is he going to come back and take his spot? I reckon Isaac Thompson, what I've heard is that he got the role on merit. And in that event, I like him in that South team. They can put on some attack. Yes, it is a hard draw to start the year, and I don't know how comfortable I'd be playing him. If you've got a soft matchup on one of those Khan Pereiras or an Alamotti, maybe you play them. But I reckon of the Chans is probably up there as well, playing fullback. But I think that I like Isaac Thompson and just the little bits that I've seen from him in the NRL so far. And I think surely the Souths are done with Milne, aren't they? With his brain explosions and all that. He's not going to come back in and take the wing spot off him, is he?
No. Yeah.
Sorry, Brad. I agree, mate. I haven't looked too much into Isaac Thompson, bar the fact that I know if he's definitely in, I'll probably play him over Remus Smith. I've got Remus Smith in my team at the moment. Was actually listening to your podcast this morning, Addo, while I was going for a run with yourself and the Whisperer. And I think you had Isaac Thompson at the top and Remus and CN Kane might have been second and third or something along those lines. I've actually got the other two at the moment. And, yeah, Thompson will probably come in for me. I think the thing with Tane Milne, just the fact that the Rabbitohs at the moment are missing a couple of forwards. I think if Tane Milne comes in, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes in off the bench and plays a bit of second row to help some of the second rowers and maybe push for some time in the middle as well. So I'm not so concerned about Tane Milne. I know he's a bit of a bitzer, that they just sort of give him a little bit here and a bit there and they put him anywhere that they need to. But I think he's more likely to spend time in the forwards rather than taking time off Thompson in the back row, in the back line, I mean.
Yeah. What are you talking on the mids there, Addo? What do you think about the hammer?
I'm not pro Hammer personally. I'm worried about the Dolphins and how much points they can score. The Hammer's not really. He's a rocks and diamonds, isn't he? We know that from him. On the surface, it probably looks like a fullback that you can play in your centers is a good idea. Someone like Chance, I reckon, will get you 30 as a low point and maybe up to 60. He's got such a small window of good and bad. Whereas the Hammer, he'll get you under 10 sometimes. And in that hit out with the Dolphins recently, did anybody love what they saw from the Hammer in that game?
No.
No, not at all.
I just don't know if I can take a risk. Not when we've got, you mentioned there, Tim Remus. Remus traditionally has averaged 40s, mid-40s. He'll get you 45 in that Melbourne Storm. He's the one that probably has the best job security. They need a center with Olam out. If you want someone who is absolutely slam dunk, not going to get dumped from the team, Remus is perfect. He's no frills as well. I think that's what people like about Chance, and I think that's probably why I'd go in that. Same as you said, Brad. I like to go safer to start the year, and somebody like the Hammer freaks me out too much. Imagine just watching him. I reckon I'd have a heart attack, just waiting for some points. And he can do it in one play, but I just don't know how they're going to get it. The Dolphins, unfortunately. Hayes Perham, he was in my team for a little while. You know, I kind of was a little intrigued why Seraldo moved Avarillo, who I thought had done a pretty good job in the fullback position last year, and just went for this Hayes Perham. And I know he's been highly touted, sort of more as a centre and a winger. They've had him, but I know he's played fullback, but has anyone seen anything that would make him have the guts to start with Perham at 370K? He looked like a duck out of water in the fullback position.
He's still 15. Sorry, he's still 15% owned. Can you believe that?
After those trials, yeah.
I'm not convinced by him, to be honest with you, and I'm with you, Ed. I reckon Avarillo was probably the Bulldogs' best player last year by far, and I just think it's ridiculous that they've moved him out to the centres. I don't see Perham staying at fullback for long. I can see Avarillo going back there at some stage, and I just think it's too much of a risk. Right.
Well, they're just warming it for Stephen Crichton, aren't they? Fullback, and so they're probably Avarillo's going to have to learn to play centre if he wants to stay at the club, because he's not going to play fullback, is he?
The other one I wanted to throw in there, pending TLT, obviously, too, is Sean Russell. I was impressed with what I saw from him in the trial. He's 366K. I'm pretty sure he's very low ownership. I've got him in my team at the moment as a placeholder, just temporary until we see the teams. But what do you guys think of him?
Personally, I really like him. When he came on the scene, last year or the year before, I think he played 5 games or something, lit the world on fire, and then got injured.
Yeah,
and that was essentially the last time that we saw him. Look, the guy had plenty of talent. He scored plenty of tries in those first few games that he played. Looked fantastic, certainly in an attacking weapon as far as Parramatta is concerned. But also, I think he's got Supercoach points written all over him. So if he's named and he gets that spot, and it is locked down. But that's going to be the hardest part. I think there's enough para outside backs where it's just a little bit dicey. You could imagine if he has one off game, maybe one of the other young guys pick it up. So that's the only concern that I would have. But certainly if he's named, he's cheap enough. I could see a world where you'd certainly have enough reason to start him.
I think I just saw another reason to potentially not start him, given their draw. So Melbourne, Sharks, Manly, Penrith, Roosters to start.
Yeah, it's one hell of a hard draw. You should have a look at their draw after that, actually. If you could pick him up there, if he starts a little slowly and he's still in the team.
Yeah, his draw opens right up from round 6. Tigers, Bulldogs, Broncos, Knights, Titans, Canberra. So
he's probably made money by then. So, and also you've got Wonga Blake and Simonson on the sidelines, haven't you? So there's a chance that both Perham or whoever the fill-ins are could drop out for Wonga Blake and Simonson maybe. But
you got Dunster there as well.
Yeah, so I mean, look, if he starts like a house on fire, who knows? He could just hold his spot.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Tommy Talau? He looked short of a gallop in the first game we saw him there. He's in the Indigenous versus Māori. But he looked pretty good to me in the second game there against when they gave the Raiders a towel up. He looked like he started to play a bit better, like what we know. Well, he's obviously a skilled player. We've seen him before. He's just had a bit of a rough run of injuries. Anyone keen on Tommy Talau?
I'm certainly keen on him, but let's be fair, Dinkum. Everybody looked good against the Raiders.
They did. Oh, mate.
But no,
Charlie Staines scored on us, mate. Charlie bloody Staines.
He actually fits the mold of a player I like because he is a bit base heavy. He does get involved. He does do a lot of runs coming back and things like that. So the little percenters that manage to boost the score up so that you don't have an Xavier Coates on your hands. Tommy actually does do that. So yeah, I don't mind him.
He looks like the most talented out of everyone in that list to me. I mean, the Hammers obviously got flashes of brilliance, but Tommy Talau reminds me of like the big Greg Inglis type player who's got a good fend on him. You know, he seems like a skinny Mel. I know Mel was one of the greatest of all times, a Raiders fan, but he's got like an inkling of being a really good player to me. I reckon he's got a lot of talent, and if he can stay healthy, I reckon he could have a really good year. In the past, he's averaged in the 40s, much like Remus. You know, when he's got given a go, he's pretty good scorer for Supercoach.
He scored a try on the weekend off a really good pass, he runs a really good line into the holes too. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you there, Ada. I think for that price bracket, I think he's probably the best option out of the whole lot too. Just he's got that base. He'll have that base about him too compared to the rest as well.
And he's got good job security. The Whisperers sort of put me on to him early doors and said, nah, they want him. He's going to start and he's locked on. It's going to be others that are fighting it out for positions. Yeah. He's not in any danger of losing it, is he? Because, I mean, that Junior Tupu looks like he could be a good one too. I was surprised how expensive he is. He's above the 300 mark as well, but he looks like a good finisher as well for the Tigers.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with what I saw from him, and I'm hoping he's going to hold that spot too. I think he probably should be there over probably even Nofaluma and Staines the way he played, I think. And he's good defensive too. He had some good defensive reads there as well. So I'm excited. As I said, as a Tigers fan, I'm excited for this year, but not too excited just for the talent that's there. Just interested to see how we're going to go.
Yep. And probably my last spot I'll mention is obviously Chan's nickel Clockstar. He was a Raider. Now he's back at home with the Warriors. A little bit underwhelming in the trial, wasn't he? Has that scared anyone off? He's probably one of the most popular buys, I reckon, isn't he? At 37.5%. Do you reckon he's one that you can leave out if you don't want? Because he's been a bit underwhelming.
Yep. I don't have him in my team. He was in my first team that I picked out, but I've since removed him. I haven't liked what I've seen from him in the 2 trial games, and to be honest with you, it concerns me that he could get moved out of fullback as well. And if he gets moved out of fullback for a TMM or something once Metcalf comes back or whatever else they end up doing, I just think it's very risky. He just doesn't have the base. He doesn't have the upside of any other player. I just can't go there, to be honest with you. I think he's a bit trappish myself.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually think his job security is pretty good. I think they made a really hard play at the Raiders to try and get CNK. They knew who they wanted. They wanted to try and bring him home. Obviously, he's a Kiwi, so I think that has a lot to do with it. I think they like to bring the Kiwi boys home. My understanding is they paid a few pennies for him. So, look, I think his job security is going to be pretty safe. Whether or not he stays at fullback or they try and turn him into a centre, much like what the Cows have done with Val, I suppose the Sharks tried to do with Val originally as well. So, look, I think he's pretty safe. I don't see him leaving the certainly not the starting 13 with the Warriors. But look, he was one of the first guys I put in with all the other cheap options that were fullback, centre wing dual, and he's the only one that I've kept. And I just think that if the Warriors have a decent game, he's going to be heavily involved. I think even if they have a poor game, I think he's going to get you 30s and 40s. I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to give you 5s and 10s. So if there's any type of sweeping backline play or anything like that, basically if the Warriors score any points, I think CNK is going to have something in it, whether it's going to be a try contribution or a try assist. But I can see the points that they're going to get, he's going to get some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's sort of the question people are asking. Like, who would you have, Brad, out of CNK and, Remus Smith? You reckon they're probably in the same ballpark? I reckon you could go whatever your persuasion is. I guess, eh?
Well, you go CMK because he's going to touch the ball a hell of a lot more. There's a lot more touches in his position at fullback. And Tim's right. They bought him from the Raiders, not exactly cheap, and so they've bought him for a reason as well. He'll be playing fullback, I think. I don't think. Sorry, Roscoe, but I don't reckon there's too much chance for the first 10 rounds at least he's going anywhere. He'll make some money. That's probably my concern. It's that word, some money. So it's you got to get out your abacus and figure out if a player at 200,000 is going to get you a better dollar return than what a player of chance is going to get you. And unfortunately, the likes of Alamoti and a few others at cheap are going to get you a better dollar return than possibly what Chance might. Although Chance, if you're going to play him, is going to get you more points. I just don't think I could play him in the 17. Does that make sense? So I could have him for a dollar return, but I think there are better dollar returns out there. Yeah. So, and I wouldn't play him.
Their draw to start with the first 6 to 8 rounds is absolutely horrific. If you have him in your team, there's no way you can play him, I don't think.
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. You've probably got to do that equation in your head about how quick the money's going to be. The last one I would mention would be Tyrell Sloan, who's fullback as well, centre wing, under 300K. He looks like dog shit at times, but he looks great at other times. He score a try and it's 50. I probably put him and Hammer in the same ballpark because they need tries. They need some attack in order to be relevant. Do you think he's going to get the hang of fullback, or is he? I think they're going to keep him there, aren't they? The Dragons for an extended period. He seems like a talent, and I reckon he could get the hang of fullback if they give him 10 games, for instance.
Look, I hate Sloan because I started with him last year and he absolutely killed me straight up. I saw these games the year before. He played about 4 or 5 games, I think, and he dead set looked like a world beater. I thought, this is a bloke we've got to get on early. And he was shit. And then they dropped him. But there is one thing about him, and there is a big but. He has a very, very friendly Supercoach friendly game. He does those little things and we spoke about off air about this, but he does those little things. He's got a little try break, a little try assist here, tackle bust there, ducks under a tackle, runs. He just does these little things that will get him Supercoach points. He's got a crap load of errors in him. Now, the crap load of errors are going to get him dropped. And then all of a sudden you got a player that's doing nothing. But on the other hand, he does have little things like that. The game the other day that trial was so error-ridden. We all saw a vision of him after the game getting consoled by Latrell and he's crying. And it was error-ridden. It was an absolute horror show. An absolute horror show that still got him. Didn't they get him over 60 possible Supercoach points?
Yeah, he did well in Supercoach. It was with a try, but still, he's a try scoring. You get players who are try scorers. He chimes into that back line in that perfect fullback. He's a lopey thing, and he has a decent pass on him. So I guess you're taking a gamble, aren't you? I'm tipping him to last longer than Hook this year. I reckon Hook will get the stack before he will in fullback.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, I can't start him. He's going to be a wait and see for me, especially with the bye first round. But I think.
See, some people are looking for a loop, in round one, and I don't necessarily hate that. A lot of people I think the 2 choices people are going with is Ben Murdoch-Masila, who's for some reason is starting in the second row for them, just because of the depth they have. And he's been doing okay. Weirdly, he's been doing okay. He's got 40 points, in the second row for 230, and he's dual. Yeah. So, you can go either him or if you wanted to slide Sloan down in there as one of the cheap options, middies in your centre wings, because, it's not the worst idea to have a VC on Cleary in round 1 and be able to bring in a Dragon player if he goes, 120, 130.
Well, that was something worth looking at until we saw that Schuster got ruled out for round 1 too. So, I guess we don't need to worry about Sloan. If you're worried about it, you're going to have a loop option there the first round already anyway with Schuster. So
if you're holding him, yeah.
Yeah.
All righty, I think it's time to get you involved a bit, Timmy. What do you got for us with cheapies there, mate? You got a bunch of cheapies you've got your eye on, don't you?
Yeah, mate, I'm all over the cheapies. As you boys know, I'm a bit of a tight ass. The joys of having 4 kids and 3 little ones, especially. So, look, I'm always trying to find a cheap option any way I can. Look, go through. There's sort of 3 guys that I put in the same boat at the moment. That's Alamotti from the Dogs, Khan Pereira from the Titans, and Warbrick from the Storm. All basement price at 200,000.8, obviously. The Dogs have got the Manly, Storm, Tigers, Warriors, Cows, Bunnies. So not the worst draw. And I think the Dogs are definitely on the improve from all the recruiting that they've done. All the talk, everyone seems to be really keen on Alamotti. I've got him at the moment. The hardest part that I think is going to happen with all these cheapies, like the way that I've got my team set up at the moment, I've got Val, and then I'm basically cheap to middies for the rest of my centre wing. The hardest part's going to be playing cheapie roulette. Like, which cheapie do you play this week? Which one do you play next week? Because I guarantee you most of these guys, you're not going to play them 3 weeks in a row unless there's some kind of major thing that happens in each of those games. So that's going to be the hardest point. So essentially, the way I'm looking at my team structure this year, I'm kind of come to terms with outside of Val, I'm probably not going to get a lot, which is why I've gone with Remus Smith in there. And that was my logic before. Remus, you can sort of bank between 40 and 60. And if he gets a try, then he might get a little bit more. But you can pretty much put your house on between 40 and 60. So I'm sort of pretty happy to have Val and then Remus in there and roll the dice for the rest of them, because you could get 100, you could get bloody 10, who knows. But yeah, look, I've got Alamotti, Khan Pereira, and Warbrick all in much the same boat. They're obviously all basement price. Khan Pereira obviously had a cracking game for the Titans last weekend, bagged a squazillion tries. They've got the Tigers, Dragons, Storm, the Cowboys, the Bye, and then St. George. So outside of the Storm and the Cowboys, I think the Titans draw is pretty juicy for an outside back. I'd be pretty happy with that. And at the moment, I think he's my 4th reserve, Khan Pereira. So not necessarily, not that it makes any difference, but he's not in my starting 4 centre wings, but I've got him as my 4th reserve at the moment. And then Warbrick, I really liked what I saw from him the other day. He looks like he could be that missing piece that they need again since they've lost Josh Addo. The hardest part with the Storm, for any super coacher that's been playing for a few years, like Addo, you'll get 10 points one week and you can get 110 points the next week. It all levels out throughout the entire season, but his fluctuation in pricing will go up and down like a fucking yo-yo. His scoring will be much the same as well. He'll get 10 and then he'll get 10 for 2 weeks in a row and then score 100. So, look, I've got all 3 of those in my side at the moment, quite simply because they're basement price. It's going to be a case of keep an eye on the draw to try and work out which one's going to go where. But like I said, with the Storm, the hardest part with the Storm too, even when they had Vunivalu and also Addo, look, you can go right out. They'll score 3 weeks and they'll go left all day long. And then the week after, you'd think they're going to play against a team who's really poor defensively on the right-hand side. So they'll go Addo all day long. And all of a sudden, Addo catches a cold and they go to Vunivalu on the right all day long. So it's too hard with the Melbourne Storm, and that's just the way that they play. They really like to play that unpredictable football. I think Bellyache's been around the game of rugby league for long enough that he's got enough nous to try and break down the other teams to work out just a little bit, go a little bit more in depth, I guess, rather than, hey, let's go left all day long or let's go right all day long. It's just too hard. But at basement price, look, let's be honest, can you go wrong with 3 different blokes at 200K?
What a treat. It didn't look like we were going to get a whole bunch of bottom price cheapies. It looked like Khan Pereira was our best chance. I love Alamotti. I love him because you look at that edge. You got Burton, you got Kickow, you got Alamotti into Addo. Once they get the hang of each other, that's going to be a lethal edge. And he looks like a big lump of the thing, doesn't he? I can see him crashing over for tries. But like you said, it's going to be hard to play him, I reckon. And it's probably going to be, if you play like Khan Pereira, it's going to be risk or reward if it comes off. I've loved what I saw from Warbrick, and he looks dynamic, doesn't he? I'd never heard of him, but he looks terrific. I've got all three in my team. I mean, what a treat to have. I mean, to get these cheapies, I wouldn't be. Some people, I've seen someone who had three of them as they had Val and then three bottom price cheapies. If you're going to rely on three of them in your starting center wingers every week, you are a ballsy person. One at max, if I would be my idea for people, and have them there making money, hopefully, on your bench.
Yeah, I've got all three in my team. I'm with all of you. We'll find out off Rosco in a minute what he's got. But the only thing with Alamotti, he's been on Supercoach radar for 2 years now. Unfortunately, injured himself last year, but we're all expecting him. And there's a bunch of us out there that are all ready to jump on him the minute he did, sort of start to get some decent game time. So, yeah, no, but I've got all three. Ross?
Yeah, I've got all the three too. But as I said earlier, we're pretty impressed with what I saw from Prayer and the Trolls and also Warbrick as well. They're probably the main two out of those three as well if they get this, if Warbrick gets his spot. But we should have to think he would now with Paps potentially being out for at least 8 weeks. And you've got Ramirez who's gone down as well. So I think he's pretty much a lock in that team. I think they're all pretty much close to must-haves, nearly, especially being bottom dollar cheapies as well. So, as for playing them all, I guess it's going to just come down to matchups on who they play against as to when I'll play them.
My only concern with Warbrick would probably be with Tyrone Wishart sitting in the wings with the Storm, whether or not they do actually start with Wishart at fullback and move Meany into the centres or out on the wing there. So that would be my only concern, because they've obviously had Tyrone Wishart floating around in and around the 17 for a while now. Surely he's got to get a decent gig at some stage. He does look like a quality footballer, but the hard part is where are they going to play him? So he's either going to be
too much utility about him now. That they could probably use. They don't have the cheese, and they don't have one of the Nicarimas there. So I think he might be a perfect 14. And
they've still got Jaden Nicarima, don't they?
Oh, do they? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that Wishart probably offers a little more in the utility, and also just quietly, Melbourne's like they're putting Warbrick out. Like, look at the new generation of Melbourne Storms. They're printing footy cards of him. I reckon they've got themselves I think they've got themselves a good one there. I reckon Bellyache's too smart, isn't he, to know this guy's a big thing. He's a big thing and he's fast. He's, I think him running down a sideline there, a couple of opposing wingers are going to get trampled.
Yeah, ex-Union player, looks strong and very powerful. Didn't see him making a lot of tackle busts and line breaks this year and scoring a lot of tries, especially in such a ceiling club like Melbourne too.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because we never wanted to touch outside backs generally for the Melbourne Storm. Because like you said, they're like one of those intuitive teams that just finds your weakness. And sometimes it'll be all left for the whole game. And sometimes it'll be all right. You get Josh Addo-Carr on try-scoring runs. But a lot of people are potentially going to have Remus Smith and Warbrick in their teams to start this year. And that's interesting, I reckon.
It's in all the podcasts that I've listened to and everything else that I've been a part of so far this year, like the general rule has been you can't pick anybody anyone from the same club, any more players than 3. Currently, I've got 5 Storm players. Now, I know that sounds out there, but when you look at the draw, they don't have a bye until round 9. So my expectation is I'm having them for starters because I know they're going to play football and they're going to be up for it. I haven't picked players necessarily that I'm expecting to go massive, but I've picked players that I think are going to do a job. And then over the first 9 rounds up until their bye, with players coming in and out of various other teams at particular times when I look at the draw, I've got no doubt some of those guys I'm going to be trading out, but I'm starting with 5 Storm players.
Yeah, I think if you look at the draws, I was talking to someone the other day, they had Hamoli starting in their second row. They had Kepi, Burbo, and they had a whole bunch of Manly guys in their second row. I was like, you got 3 in your second row alone, and they're on the bye in round 2, bro. That's not going to work for you. Some of the teams have a really good, when I'm talking with the Whisperer, when are their buys? Because if they don't have a buy to round 13, you're fine for season start with those ones. You can carry 4 or 5 of those comfortably. Your ones in the first 5 rounds, you probably have to worry about if you've got a heap of them.
Yeah.
People are worried
exactly
about
right.
having too many chooks because they're on in round 4 and too many Panthers for round 3. So, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You don't have to worry if it's later rounds.
No, that's exactly right. And I think with Manly having the bye in round 2, you can see some of the Manly players in round 1, see how they go. They have the bye in round 2, and then you might be able to, in round 3 or 4, like in my case with the Storm players, downgrade some of them. Like at which point I could drop. At the moment, I'm starting with Katoa and Liero in center. Up in second row, with the whole concept of I only had one of them before, but when Schuster went down, I had to do something with fairly similar sort of money. So at which point, whichever one of those two after 3 rounds isn't looking real flash, will probably go straight down to Schuster and he'll come up into my second row. So now that there is injuries and things like that to contend with, plus with teams with those early buys, there is a different way of doing things.
Yeah, sure.
Beautiful.
The
All
other
right,
one's
back. I was about to say, back on track, Jimmy. What
Yeah.
what other cheapies you got?
Yeah, look, the other 2 cheapies that I'm looking at, Sloan we already talked about before. I'm not really convinced with Sloan. I did have him for most of preseason. I think I flicked him about a week ago. But the other big talking point, which I think we touched on very briefly, was Taruva from the Panthers. Look, the Panthers have got the Broncos, the Bunnies, then they've got the bye in round 3, as we just said. They've got Parra, the Raiders, and Manly. So as far as Panthers are concerned, there's nothing too ugly in there. Mind you, they did have a bit of trouble with the Broncos last year. I will just push that one through. So if I was a betting man, the way that the Panthers played the other week, I wouldn't mind putting a couple of bucks on the Broncos. It's not a home game. If for the Bronx, it's down at Panther Stadium, but yeah, it was for as good as the Panthers were. I was really not so impressed with them last weekend. I think Appy's going to really, really hurt them this year, not being there. But Taruva at 275K, I think it's his spot to lose.
Yeah.
Said like a
You go, Brad. You.
I was just going to say, said like a true Broncos friggin' nut.
Kevy, they extended Kevy because he had such a successful 9th last year, and they fell out in the last week of bloody regular season. One of the most amazing falls from because you were top 4 or something before then. I couldn't believe it. Gave the Raiders a go into the finals. I love it.
Yeah, and the personal bet with my older brother cost me a carton because the Raiders did knock us off in that last round. So yeah, stuck balls.
I mean, look, if you make a plan for Taruva in your team, because whoever replaces him, if he doesn't actually get the gig, they're going to be a bottom price cheapie as well. So you'll gain an extra 70K, won't you? So pump him in there if you want. Anyone who's going to get a run in that Penrith Panthers team, probably a good cheapie to have, I reckon.
Yeah, look, as soon as he came available, I went Hayes Perham down to him. And then I moved a couple of other pieces around, which ended up being that I could turn Cheese back up into Grant. So I made that change. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon. So, yeah, look, I think Taruva is going to be great value there.
Another cheapie, Timmy. Have you had a look at T. Farre from the Dolphins? I know it is the Dolphins, but he's cheap.
Oh, mate, I've got no doubt he's gonna get some points when he gets on the field. My issue is I'm not convinced he's going to start. And I think he's got quality, but I think that the Dolphins, let's be honest, if they're smart, they will play their NRL players first and then see what happens after that. I think the guys like that they've brought in from all the other clubs, I mean, they've got half a dozen bloody ex-Broncos there and then another half a dozen ex-Storm players. So between the Queensland teams, that is Melbourne, I think it's just out past bloody just north of the border there somewhere. But yeah, look, Wayne Bennett's no mug. I can see him starting with all the NRL players first, as in the guys that have got the experience and the runs on the board, and then it might be 1 or 2 young guys filtering in one at a time. But look, Tafari, I've got no doubt can play. He's going to be a great prospect when he gets on the pitch. I'm not convinced he's going to be in the starting 17 next Tuesday, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk even that Ewan Aiken's going to come off the bench, and he's a pretty bloody good centre, good second rower too, I think. So, I mean, is he going to start? I think you're right. Bennett's probably smart. And same with that halfback, Katoa. He's probably, he looked better than Milford to me in their trial. But I think he'll blood him at the right times in the season. And you might see Tuare at some stage, but I think looks like they're going other directions to start. I mean, what about that Bostock? They've put him on the wing in their trial. He's a development player. He won't even be able to be selected, will he?
I sort of agree with you, but the only thing I'll say to this about Fare is go and have a look at his. If he does get a start at some point, go and do yourself a favour. Go have a look at his YouTube highlights. Go on YouTube, put his name, mate. I'm not sure how he hasn't picked up a gig somewhere else yet, but he's a scary looker, and he looks like he's base heavy. And I had a look at his stats from Queensland Cup, and it's very juicy. Yeah,
he looks talent. I mean, we're obviously, Tim and I are up here in Queensland. I go out, there's a couple of pharmacies out there at the Redcliffe Dolphins, and I chat to the people out there, and they love him. They're so glad to have him. And you talk about the players they're looking forward to seeing, and it's all about Katoa, and they want to see Tuare.
Yeah.
I love him.
All right. Well, we'll move on to just a couple we'll speak about, and we'll probably wrap up the centre 3/4. A couple we haven't mentioned that deserve a little bit of a chat, probably a bit of Uber pod about them. Katoni Stags. Now, we've all been burnt. No, I think we all got burnt at one stage. Actually, I tried to avoid him. I got tempted at one stage last year, but Katoni Stags, he's under 10%. Any love for old Katoni? The Broncos aren't looking that bad. That back line looks pretty sharp. Who wants to have a crack? Ross,
you're the Broncos fan. If anyone's going to have him, it's Tim.
Yeah,
Tim.
I'm quite happy. I could have a chat all day about the back line, but we haven't heard from Ross for ages. Is he still actually alive?
Yeah, I'm here. No worry, I'm here.
I rang Ross this morning. He had no shirt on, so I figure he's probably just turned his camera off because he still hasn't gotten changed from this morning yet. He was laying in bed.
I'm in pajamas, mate.
Oh, well, tell us about Stags, mate. Can we own Stags, Ross?
Yeah, Katoni. Let's go.
Oh, look, he's burnt me too much previously. I've owned him before. We know what he's capable of, but so many times last season, I'm sure you guys will agree, they just kept cutting him out. He's just like the cut-out man, and like, yeah, but he's got the upside to him, no doubt about that. But yeah, he'll be one I'll be watching again this year. No doubt I'll bring him in at some stage. He'll probably burn the shit out of me again, but I couldn't start him. No, that's the only thing.
Yeah, he's got the Talakais. Him and Talakai, they've certainly got some biggies in them. You just got to kind of get a feel for him to start the year. And, you know, if we believe what he said about his body and wasn't up, you know, he was injured last year all year, if he's fit and firing and he's getting involved, because he has some real low ones in him when he doesn't get involved. He's one of those not get involved guys. So, you know, I'm going to watch him. I'm going to put him on the watch list. Yeah. And that's the most I can offer on Katoni for the start of the year on my watch list.
All right, the next one, which is a bit, I'm not sure, I can't remember if we discussed him earlier, but Marzu. I'll tell you what, he's only 3.5% owned. Wow. I cannot believe he's not higher. He should be higher. Any thoughts? Who wants to have a crack at this one?
I had him in my team about 4 or 5 days ago until I woke up and decided that I'm pretty sure I'm going to be stupid if I don't start with Hines in my team. So I downgraded him to make the cash to get Hines back into my team. But I really like Marzu, and I think with a nice draw in particular, I think he can get some big games. He's got tackle bust, he's got the base, he's got the upside. But he does have a lot of errors in his game too. That's the thing as well, as we discussed earlier. But I don't think he's the worst option, and I'm surprised he's only 3.5% owned. Especially after his trial the other day in a team that got flogged by Para. He was outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, everyone watched him in the Titans last year, and that's why he cost in the 500s. That's 500s new money, yeah, but he went on a run last year where he was, you know, pumping out big scores, and the Pod Hunters last year grabbed him, and I don't think they regretted it. He's a tackle breaker, so he's going to rack up points. He's a really good finisher too. Like, he gets 12 meters out, and I just say, good luck. to anyone. You know, he's just got a bit of that about him as well. Not the best defender in the world. I worry about if he has a couple of real barries that you've just got to have to trade him out because he's dropped. But yeah, if he doesn't get over 10%, get him in. Get him in because he'll rack up Supercoach points.
Is he on Ponga's side, or do we know? Is he, or is he on, or is he not?
I mean, Ponga wasn't even out there long enough for us to get a read on, was he? He was out there for 20 minutes.
I thought it was 38 minutes, but it wasn't very long.
Wasn't much. Ponga. No, look, I don't know what side he's on, to be honest. I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to that game. I feel like he was on the other side to Ponga, but who's the other winger that they go with? Old mate
Dominic Young.
Trader went to the Roosters.
Trader that's going to the Roosters, yeah.
He's outside David for Peter, though. I think you'll find.
Right?
No, he's at the Knights.
Oh, that's right. He's actually on the Knights. Yeah, I was about to say, what
he's
that
outside-
other side, yeah.
He's outside Braddo and Best, isn't he? Who also likes a tackle bust.
Yeah.
So can you imagine those two blokes running at you from centre and wing? Like, oh my god!
Yeah, you're like, because you're going to put two blokes on Bradman, and
that's exactly right. Which bloke do you try and tackle?
It's a great shout. I really think he's a good one to start. If you really want to just go have a little flutter on someone that's not the same as everyone else's team.
Yep, I agree, Addo. I think he's a great pod to start with. And even with the Knights draw, I think their draw is pretty friendly. Two outside backs. So yeah, look, as soon as Ponga got the dual position, I brought him straight in for that sole reason. I think the Knights got a tasty draw. I think their backs could actually rack up some points. Although I don't think the Knights are going to go so well this year. I think it's going to be much of the pain that they've had over the last 2 or 3 years. But yeah, look, I think that with their early draw, the way that it is, I think they'll get off to a good start. And then who knows what momentum does in rugby league. So they could kick on maybe.
Oh, very good. All right, the last one I'm going to mention is we haven't mentioned anyone from this team, Tuolagi. No, Mulatalo. Sorry, we'll go Mulatalo. I was thinking about Tuolagi, but Mulatalo. Yeah, he's under 3%. I think he's something like about 2.9%.
He was hot on the collar in last game, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But he scored a couple of tries. He's one of the best finishers in the game, and so is his old mate on the other wing in Katoa. They're terrific. And didn't the Sharks look like they haven't skipped the beat? They look really good. You could do a lot worse than getting Ronnie. The only thing that I worried about Ronnie last year, because I owned him, was when Wade came back in. It killed Ronnie. It killed Talakai. I reckon it killed the Sharks, to be quite honest.
I agree.
But with Teague Wilton out there, even Talakai looked good and scored well in Supercoach on the weekend. And I don't want to get lured back into him, but I like Ronnie, and I really liked. If you can't afford Val, Tuolagi is getting better every year as a footballer, and you could do a hell of a lot worse than go a slice of the. Because I want a slice of the Cowboys. I've gone Val. If you can't afford Val in your build, I reckon Tuolagi is going to get some tries early doors in that Cowboys team.
He's under 4% in two, so he was the other one. That's why I sort of said his name. He's on the tip of my thought process there, but he's under 4% as well. So quite surprisingly for his value.
I'll add Kyle Felt to that too for exactly the same reason. No one's talked about Kyle Felt at all. He's not exactly the flashy winger that everybody likes to have in their Supercoach team, but shit, the guy can score some tries. They just love passing it out wide to him, and he gets in the corner post every time. He's not the kind of guy that's going to drop too many. And if the Cowboys are going to go on the run that we all think they are, either Tuolagi or Kyle Felt, absolutely you could have him in there.
Yeah, I like Tuolagi. I think he's a good player. The year I did really well and finished 150th or whatever it was in 2001, I actually picked him up early in the pieces of pod, and he went on a massive run too. And he just, between him and Garrick that year, they were the two that got me to where I finished. But I rate Tuolagi too as a player. Really do. He's a good player. And as I said, with that trawl that they've got as well, he wouldn't be the worst option. I know I picked him up in a couple of drafts because I just think he's one definitely worth looking at though at some stage.
All right. Well, we're just about to wrap it up, and I'm going to pose one question to the panel here tonight. That's just to get your thoughts on this one, and it's got nothing to do with centres or wingers. We might hit Timmy up first with this one, but the news today that Gus is going to be out for an extended period of time. Now the Supercoach world went in a half a meltdown where everybody all of a sudden started running out and buying the Butcher Boys. Has anybody here bought the Butcher Boys? Timmy, have you jumped ship and jumped on a Butcher?
No, not at this stage, mate. Just the way that I've set my team up. I've only really gone the one gun in the second row with Dave Fafita. I've got Teague Wilton in there as well. I think I've got Hopgood as my third one at the moment. And then the two second rowers from the Storm, as I mentioned, and I can't remember who I've got as a third as my final bench reserve, but he's someone cheap, that'd be for sure. Oh, Dory from the Eels at the moment. So yeah, look, not for me.
Addo, have you jumped ship onto Egan?
I have. I had my own. I had my own Egan Butcher all preseason, and I didn't really. I mean, look, Nat's a try scorer, but I just career PPM. I know he's coming off the bench and he's in the middle, but he's got a career PPM above 1. He's a good worker when he's on the field. If he can get good minutes, just say he gets 65 minutes, he'll score you 65 points. That's Egan Butcher. And look, I was like, my biggest fear was, I know Satili's going to come back, they say May, but I had fears that Gus would come back early doors. And then once Egan goes back to the bench, it's going to shoot you in the foot. You're going to have to get rid of him real quick. This sounds like it's going to be a decent enough run for him, I reckon. So I removed Teague Wilton. Teague was good on the weekend, but it needed tries. He only had a base of 20s. I know they were flogging him, but I want to make a decision between Teague Wilton. I will have one of them, Teague Wilton or Egan Butcher. I just haven't decided yet, but because it was a big shiny thing that had happened, and I was like, well, all my fears about Egan are gone now. I'll bring him in. I just like him out of the Butcher Boys. I like him more than Nat, and I just reckon he's going to be a weapon.
Yeah. Rosco, you jumped on him? Oh, sorry.
I'm not on any of the Butcher brothers, and I've known that before, and I really rate him. But all the talk at the moment is that once they've got all their players back, that Egan's going to probably hold the edge spot over Nat, which is a bit of a concern to own either of them, just not knowing what's going to happen down the track once Tupelotu and Angus come back. So I've avoided both of them at the moment. I'm running Teague Wilton, and all my other second row forwards are all mids to cheapies. So I don't hate the play. It's just hard to know who's going to hold that spot and who isn't. But like Addo said, they're probably both going to start on an edge to start the season, but one of them's going to go at some stage, and whoever it is going to have to trade them out because they're going to go back to the bench.
The only other concern for me at the moment, it's come out in the last 24, 48 hours, the news on Dom Young from the Knights and that the Roosters want him. Now, apparently they've said that, look, we'll do a player swap and you can have your pick out of Nat or Egan Butcher, which is an interesting call when you've got two brothers that play in the same team and you want to get rid of one, and which runs the risk of pissing the other one off. Which is quite interesting in itself.
Well, that was the Knights that asked for one of those because they need middles and edges, and the Roosters told them to jam it.
Oh, okay, so that's a bit different to how I read it. I read it the other way around. That the Roosters said that we want Dom Young, and here's your options of players that you can have. So that's not how I read it, but okay, that's the joys of me having a real day job and not getting to read up on it as much as I probably should have.
Yeah, there's no way with Angus and Tilly out for as long as they're going to be that they're going to offer either of those two to Newcastle. There's no way in the world it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's going to be a point where you'd have to move on an Egan or a Nat if you had them. But you're not going to want to have them as season-long keepers, are you? You're going to move them on. They could get off to a decent start. I think he's enhanced, hasn't he, now that we've heard the Angus news today. And I've always liked him. And I think you could pick around those in the 400s. Eli Katoa looks good for the Melbourne Storm. Teague looked good. Luero is 360K. there's some options, and people can go whatever your different persuasion is. I think Egan will do a pretty good job for you if you get him.
I think Egan's at about 480, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nat's not much different, I didn't think.
I think he's 500 or something.
Oh, no, yeah, might be another 80 or something. But yeah,
Nat looked good in the trial as well. He went over, crashed over for a nice try. So, they're pretty talented, the old Butcher boys, aren't they?
yeah.
All right, well, that's about it, folks. We've probably bashed your ear Nick, for way long enough now. Let's hope that that's got you some tips and some help to try to get a good centre three-quarter sort of line happening for yourself. Get some good fast wingers and some base out there. Thanks, Timmy.
You're very welcome. It's always good to get back on, boys, after missing last Sunday night's pod. Just had too much family stuff on. Had the folks visit. So, yeah, unfortunately, I missed our Sunday night pod, but, yeah, raring to go.
Excellent stuff. Rosco, thanks, mate.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
There you got the masked man. And Addo, don't forget, if you Addo's got his own little Facebook page. You can find him on Spotify, or you can also find him on Spotify, etc., all the usual places on Dual Position Podcast. Thanks, Addo.
All right, thanks for having me. You'll find me anywhere. I don't care.
I was just going to say, if you've got any of the podcast app and you put a Supercoach app on, chances are Addo's going to be on it.
Hey, I'm going on lots of things this year.
Hey,
You're outside of the
doing
Dual.
you haven't been roped into like the Bloke in a Bar country tour?
No, I haven't. I saw the Kando from the Supercoach. He's been added, and Brandon from the Supercoach Experience been added as experts. Addo didn't get added as an expert. No, I'm doing a few things. But look, I love Supercoach. I'm like you guys. We just love it. And we'd love to just win it, or even if I finished in the top 50 or 20, I'd be happy, I reckon. Last year was my best finish. I think I finished 200th. But I'm so pumped for the season. I'm looking forward to this year with a bye every week for Supercoach and a couple of, 3 big bye rounds. I think it's going to make it a fun Supercoach year. It feels like a brand new game in a way to me with the extra team and the buys. So I'm pumped.
We're wrapped to have you, mate. Thanks very much, Addo, for being on. I'm Braddo. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening in, and we hope you have a good week. Don't forget, Sunday night, we'll be back again. We'll put up another one. Till then, we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Stay safe and be good.